Oh my gosh, we're live. Episode 2, Moxie Monday, Nicole and Nicole. At it
Welcome,
again.
welcome.
So
Thank
excited.
you for being here. If you're here, if you're not here, you should be.
I know
Like,
you're missing out.
what the heck? What are you even doing?
That's right. You're missing the Moxie ladies over here.
Yeah, I mean, each week, I think we're just gonna dig in a little bit deeper. So they're gonna get spicier and spicier
Yes.
in the best way. So that is why we're here. Moxie Mondays are all about just going there, unfiltered, talking about the things that keep us small. And actually, we were almost late to starting this podcast because Nicole was sharing a story very relevant to this topic. I mean, we were kind of like, teeing up the conversation we're about to have here. And like, I'm on the edge of my seat. She's like, well, we're almost late. So I'll tell you later.
And that was a juicy one.
Yeah. So it's just like, we just want to air it all out and talk about it. And I'm so excited what we have lined up today.
Me too. I've been dying to have this conversation.
So, yeah, today's topic. Well, actually, first, I wanted to kick off and ask Nicole. So, hello, Moxie. Moxie is all about, Nicole, just like in your quickest way, define Moxie. What does it mean to have Moxie?
Ooh, force of character.
Okay.
And courage mixed with a little bit of charm.
Mm.
Yeah. Courage, force of character, and charm. And you're going to go for it in your way. Your own unique way.
Those are the ingredients to the perfect Moxie.
Yeah. For me anyway. But I think Moxie has meant something different to everyone I've asked that question, which is so fun.
Oh, I could see that because it's like it's totally about authenticity, right?
Yes.
You can't fake Moxie.
So true.
So I love that. Okay, so I wanted to ask you before we get into it, what from last week, since we've been on here last, what is a story of Moxie? How did you show up with Moxie last week? What's the story? Share.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I have two. Can I do two?
Yeah, sure. This is your show, girl.
Oh man. Okay, so the first one was launching our mentorship event that's coming up next month. Like we literally launched the thing and we've been working on it for months. And it's like we built the thing from freaking nothing. Took a huge so seeing that go live and out into the world was like, we're doing this, So that was exciting because it's like whenever you do something, as an entrepreneur or, there's something really that I just find so joyful about creating something from nothing, like just being able to, come up with not only just create something nothing, but create something from nothing that's going to help someone else and help them, tackle life's challenge is really empowering. Like I just feel really motivated about how can I help lift and empower other women so they don't have to struggle with some of the things I've had to struggle with. So knowing that we're kind of like birthing this baby out into the world to see what happens. It's just really like
there's no better way to describe it. Yeah,
I know. So I was like, we did it, man. We launched the thing, and so that I would say. And the second thing, I finished writing the first draft of a play last week. My first full-length play. Like no crap. I
already know this, and I was blown away because I'm like, how the hell did you also do this, Nicole?
I know. I literally, when I finished writing it, that's exactly what I was like, how did I do this?
But it's so clear it gave you energy. It wasn't like you were burning the midnight oil and like running yourself down ragged. It's like you were tapping into an area that used to be play for you, right? And it's life-giving.
Absolutely. Really cool. That's totally, absolutely hit the nail on the head. It aligns really well with phase 2 of the Moxie Method, Spark, which is all about curiosity and experimentation and play. And I made a commitment to myself a year and a half ago. I was going to invest big time in play because it's something that I never felt safe to play, honestly, since the time I was a little child. Play was a foreign thing to me. So I was like, I'm just going to do whatever, like follow the breadcrumbs. What am I curious about? And this opportunity to take a playwriting class kind of opened itself up to me. And I was like, I used to love writing plays when I was a kid. Like legit would write plays and my fourth grade teacher would put them on for the class. And when I turned 11, I just stopped doing it. And I was like, and so this, you're right, it's fuel. Like if you're doing something that just lights you up inside, it's not work and it just adds. It's not like a time suck, if that makes sense. And it creates energy for other things too.
Yep.
So it's interesting. Like you think, how do you have time for it? But like taking the time to do that actually was like kind of like this explosion of energy that I was able to direct into other things. I don't know.
So important. It's so important. And I am so, I admire people like you and actually my husband, he is like a serial hobbyist. And it's like, I love like see someone in flow state doing something where they have no obligation to do it. Because I ran an agency. So like it was hustle culture. Like everything for me was about survival and like making my own living. And I had this like terrible realization at a certain point that I had no hobbies. I'm like, wait, so is running a business that's my hobby, I guess? Like that's what I am. That's my identity. And so slowly but surely I've been trying to tap into those things for me, like writing a play for you. And I would say moving out on a farm is it's a great place to start because that's how I grew up. And I was never bored growing up. I'm never bored. And it was all just left like open space in my imagination. And I had an amazing time as a child with that. So stay tuned, I guess.
So what's your Moxie moment from last week?
Well, I think there were probably like several stacked, especially like you said, we launched this and that's massive. But it was kind of a blur because we're crazy people that launched something massive in a very short time, but we're so proud of it. So the one that stands out, it might seem small, but to me, it was like, wow, that was years and years of work for you to be able to experience that. So we were with friends this weekend and we met friends of friends. So people we've never met for the first time, and they're super cool people, really inviting, friendly. But there's always this, like, when you first meet someone, you're trying to figure each other out, no matter what the context is, no matter if it's work, no matter if it's personal, there's always this like calculation going on. And I've come to a place, thankfully, now where I feel like most of the time I'm very present and I'm just being myself. So I'm not overthinking about what I'm saying, how I'm acting, and one of our new friends said something about like, my mom kind of does this, and it's like he was just like, there's this thing that his mom does that he was just like, it's ridiculous. And I reframed it and I was like, well, like, think about it this way. Like, think like your mom really is doing this because this. And I didn't realize I was doing it, but he like kind of went like this. And he was like, that's the second or third time today that you've reframed something negative I said to a really thoughtful, positive way of looking at it. He was like, thank you for doing that. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. But that was, for me, that's Moxie, because I spoke up. I didn't internalize like, wow, this guy's so negative, and leave, and tell my husband later, like, God, that guy is so negative. And so for me, that's Moxie. It's like being able to show up and share your wisdom in a way that helps others. It's not forceful, it's authentic. And it's really just about using your voice. I mean, it was just like such a proud moment because I was confident enough to just say it without even thinking, and not in a way where it was like I'm a know-it-all on a soapbox. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're showing vulnerability. I mean, like Moxie is being able to have those difficult conversations, like the things we think in our head that we want to say, but we're too afraid to say.
Yeah.
That's Moxie. That's speaking.
Yeah. And that can be the default, to hold that in. And so that's my example. It was just 2 days ago, so it was the low hanging fruit because our week was a little bit crazy.
It was.
But
quite a bit.
yeah, I encourage. We decided we're going to open up every Moxie Monday that way. So my dream scenario is that anyone watching also shares theirs, and they go into the week kind of saying, I'm gonna pull the Moxie when I need it.
Ooh, pull the Moxie. I love that.
Moxie card, or however you want to say it. I don't know. Help me brand this. Okay. So great stuff. So today's topic is reclaiming your voice in rooms, or I want to add spaces. So reclaiming your voice in rooms or spaces that try to silence it. And I want to just make a caveat, like the word try doesn't always feel right to me because sometimes it's a systematic thing that's been rooted so deep that literally it's unconscious to an industry.
Yeah.
That women are being silenced. So so reclaiming your voice. I want to tee this up. I was thinking about, I always just need time to really sit with a topic, to see how we want to bring this to people in a way that's I guess just sheds light on something that maybe you are experiencing every day or didn't realize it. And the thing that came to me was the heavy weight that we feel when we are playing it small or when we're not using our voice. And sometimes it's these one-off scenarios, a conference we attended, a one-off meeting that we had where we walked away and we're like, oh, what was that? Why was that? That wasn't me, why did I have such a hard time in there? But sometimes it's like years. It's years in an organization or a situation we keep going back to. And it's just chipping away at us day after day in terms of our so many things. Confidence, I think joy, I think our outlook on life. If we carry that so long, it's so easy to get bitter. It's so easy to just shut down. And we're leaning into the tech industry right now, and there's this stat that we ran into time and time again with our research, where over 50% of women in tech leave by the age of 35. And to me, I wonder, and if any tech ladies are listening, is it because of that? After a while, you're just sick of it. It's just a lot to carry. And you're done with the fight, and I shared with Nicole, because I had a little taste of it in an industry where women are underrepresented. I was in the manufacturing industry for, a year. And just that weight, just after a year, was so heavy. I can't imagine doing it for 10 years. And so I just wonder, it's how do you decide the fight is worth it when maybe it's not totally just an organization thing? Of course, some organizations culturally, some are more toxic than others, but when it's an industry, how do you decide to stay? And if you do stay, how do we keep ourselves sane? How do we keep ourselves authentic, energized, with the right strategies to show up in a way that's not draining us? So this is where I'm turning it over to you, Nicole.
Man, that's a big question.
Like, what's your experience with this?
Yeah.
What are some of those moments for you where it just took everything out of you because of the silencing? And how did you know to stay fighting, and how did you stand up in a way that didn't drain you, that was a strategy that, that empowered you instead of, sucked all the life out of you?
Yeah, I will say that the reality is, from my experience, and I've been working now for 23 years, wow, is that toxicity in the workplace is pretty common. It's across industries. So I've worked in the manufacturing industry, I've worked in marketing, I've worked in, industries that are wellness industries. So I've worked across industries, and I will say across the board, there's going to be a time when you're going to encounter some level of toxicity in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
From my experience, it's inevitable. And there are varying degrees of it, right? And so your point there about how do you know when you want to stick it out and when to go is a really important question, because there are times, frankly, when maybe the right thing is for you to find a way to navigate where you're at by weighing the pros and cons. Is this job providing me with fulfillment, opportunity for me to develop skills in a way that kind of counterbalances some of that other side of things, right? So it's kind of weighing the pros and cons a little bit. So I would say the first thing that I think found from my experience that's important, I have so many stories I could share. I could go on for days about experiences and how I've experienced this in the workplace where my voice was, not welcomed.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say the first advice I have is you have to get very clear on what your body is telling you.
Mm-hmm.
And this sounds very hooey, but it's real. You've got to pay attention to literally what your sensations of your body are telling you, because sometimes we have a tendency to just tune those signals out, or our brain goes into rumination mode.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult for us to be grounded in our bodies and really understand what's really happening. So my first advice is you have to just spend time in stillness. And this is phase fun. It is fun. Phase 1 of the Moxie method, you really got to take time to just be still. And literally just pay attention to, okay, my heart is racing right now. What am I? And then putting a name to that. What am I feeling? Or I'm feeling tingling in my hands and my feet. As basic as that, just recognizing what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Because then what happens is you start to, as you name the emotion that's associated with that feeling, when you're not practicing stillness and when you're in these situations where you're experiencing microaggressions or, a toxic situation, those feelings are going to come up and you're going to notice them because you've been paying attention to them. So I've been in situations where I've been with a colleague, for example, that I worked with for many years, and it was a toxic situation. And it was kind of like a frog in boiling water type of situation where over time there was more shaming. And every time I tried to step up and speak up and use my voice, there was shaming that would happen, where I'd be shamed for speaking up or blamed or that kind of a thing. And over time of me practicing stillness this whole time. And the second thing was I had an outside courage companion. I had a coach who helped me recognize what was happening. I had someone that I could talk to who was outside of the situation, who could say, red flag.
Yeah.
This is not a great situation. And so that, having someone to talk to and being tuned into what my body was telling me, that was the secret sauce for me to be able to actually recognize whether or not this was a situation that I wanted to continue forward with, or whether I needed to move on from it. And so that would be my advice, is if you're I literally just watched this documentary last night about Gabby Petito. I don't know if you just know the story about it. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole.
I did watch this.
Oh my gosh. So when you're in a situation that's toxic, it's very difficult for you to get out of it.
Yeah.
It's very difficult because
you can't see it clearly, right?
You can't see it
you
clearly.
are in it. Yes.
You need someone from the outside to
Yes.
help you be like a voice of reason to tell you what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my advice is you have to pay attention to what your body's telling you, and you need trusted people that you can talk to about it. And what I noticed finally is that I remember having a conversation with this particular person and I was in tears. I was so upset about something and I was extremely vulnerable. And in that moment, what I was met with was like invalidation. And my whole body, like alarms went off. My heart was racing. And in that, I could feel it in that moment, Nicole. Like while I was in conversation, my body was like, danger, danger. My heart was racing. I had a pit in my stomach. Like I had chest tightness and I could feel that in my body. And so I was tuned into those signals and I was like, something's not right. This
Mm-hmm.
is not okay. This is not safe. My body's telling me I'm not safe. And
Yeah.
that was like the thing that really helped me, you know. But
Okay.
there's other situations though
Yeah.
where, it's not that extreme, right? There's other situations where maybe you do have someone that you have to work with, that's someone that you have to work with and you communicate with them a couple times a week, or, you're not communicating with them very regularly. And
Mm-hmm.
so there are some things that you can do there to just set boundaries. It's just a matter of setting boundaries and saying, okay, what's acceptable, how I communicate with this person, what boundary can I set with them to protect myself and keep myself, in a safe situation, knowing that I have to work with this person. So really it's a case by case kind of basis that you have to address that.
I love that you went there. You said you spoke up to this colleague and it was invalidated.
Yeah.
I love that you went there because that's what we're most afraid of. That's what the fear is, that you will speak up and be shut down.
Yes,
That is the worst case scenario. But it's like you're going to have some situations where you spoke up and it like played out exactly as, oh, yes, that's what I wanted. And you're going to have times where no, absolutely, that was the worst case scenario. And so I think you said you were invalidated, but then you immediately, it's like those alarms went off. But at that point, you had gone through, the exercises to be able to manage it.
Yeah.
And it's like we can't grow ever. We have to grow through those tough moments. Or
Yeah,
like,
you're absolutely right. I mean,
and they get easier, right? Like it's like it
yeah,
becomes just second nature.
totally. I would say like that, those experiences, the worst case scenario happening of being invalidated, and then literally choosing to speak up and say no, and then making a decision that supported that going forward was incredibly confidence building. Because what I learned is I can be invalidated, this can happen, and I know how to navigate it, and I'm going to
Yeah.
be fine on the other side.
Yeah.
So it helps you realize, like, when I speak up, worst case, I get invalidated or I'm shut down. Well, I survived.
Mm-hmm.
I figured out how to navigate my way forward, and I can do it again. So
Yeah.
the way to get through those is you just gotta.
And I think the beauty of it too is like the satisfaction of walking away after you've thrown yourself into it, like you've leaned into it. The the satisfaction of walking away pretty unscathed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like it almost becomes I don't want to say fun, but I guess it just becomes so rewarding and like you're free. It feels like freedom
Yeah, for sure.
to not let to for external factors out of our control to not be weighing us down, because when we're not speaking up because of that fear of being invalidated, that's letting external factors control your life.
Yeah. Very.
So when you can walk away unscathed, I think it's just like, oh, it's just
Yeah.
that's the goal, right? So that we can just we can show up without that clouded fear, and no matter what the outcome is, okay. It's
Yeah.
okay.
And I would say too, it's important to have self-awareness, which goes to stage 2 of the Moxie method, which is the spark, which is all about learning about yourself, what your strengths are and what your gifts are. And so I have a lot of awareness. For example, I'm a very trusting person. I'm very open-minded. I'm very flexible. I know this about myself because I've done the work to explore this about myself, taking the Gallup Strengths Finder, for example, which we advocate for as part of the Moxie method, knowing what your strengths are. And so because I have clear awareness on what my strengths are, I know that sometimes it's easy. I could have this propensity to be manipulated. I have this propensity because I'm so open-minded and so easygoing and so positive and always see the glass half full, right? I know that about myself. And so I know that I need to make sure I guard against that as much as possible. So I think as women, you have to know, and not all women are like me. Not all women are open-minded and positive and all that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you have to know what your own strengths are so that you can see what those could be as weaknesses on the other side, and identify those weaknesses so that you can find a way to guard yourself from other people taking advantage of them, So that's another piece of it that I think is important, is to just know yourself, know what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And if you have a weakness, find a strategy of how you're going to handle that in relation.
I love that because it's like when you open yourself up, when you speak up, it's like it can almost feel like this game of chess. All of a sudden you've spoken up.
Yeah.
And it's that's that uncontrollable external factor. Like you don't know what you're going to get in return. And so that's how that can feel like a game of chess. And yeah, to your point, like if you don't understand where you're strong and weak, that could lead to some very, unfortunate outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And then your body's like, don't ever speak up again. Please no.
Exactly.
What happened last time? You just got steamrolled.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I would say my biggest takeaway for myself is that it's important for me to set boundaries sooner.
Yeah.
But I realized that sometimes I wait too long, even though my body was screaming at me like, no, you're not okay with this. This is against your value system, or this isn't a safe place for you. And it took me too long to say no or recognize it. So I would say something to protect yourself is just to know what your boundaries are and your values are up front, early as possible. Like, what are your values? What do you value? What do you value in a workplace relationship? Because those are different. Right? Like I value play. I love to be in an environment where I feel like I can be playful. Well, not every environment really values play, right?
They sure don't.
And if that's important to you as a value and you want to be in a place where that's celebrated, right?
Yeah.
Know that up front. And if you start to see, because not every workplace is going to be a great fit. And that's okay. There's other people, takes all kinds in the world.
That's such a great point.
It's important.
That fight is going to be so much harder for you if you're like square peg round hole.
Yeah. So just get clarity on what your values are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nicole. Hey, and we are coming to a close here, and I feel like that was just the most perfect way to close that is know your values, know your strengths, know your values.
Name them and claim them. My friend Chris Harrington says that. Name them and claim them.
Hell yeah. Love that. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
So we just to close here, everyone, if you're still on, oh my gosh, thank you. You're amazing.
You guys.
Yeah, let us know. Just give us some feedback. I love feedback. Or share a story, a story of when you were silenced and overcame it, and how you knew, to stick with it, and what your journey was through that.
Yes.
Next week, we are possibly going to have a guest, and we are going to be discussing the power of connecting and building our own tribes. So
this topic.
be a fun one.
That'd be great.
And just to plug what we've worked so hard to birth together. Flash mentorship. If you are a woman in tech and feel these conversations resonate with you, please consider joining us for our first ever Flash mentorship event. Today is the last day of early bird pricing.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow it goes up. So, Nicole, would you like to send our viewers off with some closing wise words?
Ooh, nope.
Only?
No pressure. Okay. All I'm going to say is, oh, I feel the pressure big time. Oh, man. Let's see. What am I going to say? My closing words for today are, you've got the Moxie. So if you are in a situation where you're not sure if it's a good fit or so trust yourself. And the way to learn to trust yourself is really just to practice being with yourself. So, those are my final words.
Love it. Okay.
All right.
We'll see everyone this time next week.
Yay. Bye. Thanks, Nicole.
See ya.